Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai Ba'asham Ha Rakakwadash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of great millstone which taught us the truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom. Alright, I was listening to this House Intelligence Committee. It holds open hearing on UFOs. And I was already 17 minutes in, and they're pretty much saying that they got to acknowledge that there's mysterious objects flying above our heads in the heavens, all right, that are doing tactics that are threatening to America, all right? And they said we got to actually look at this as a true threat to our society, which the chariots, the so-called UFOs, are a threat to the wicked and their society, all right? It tells you in Daniel 12 that Michael, the archangel, an angel of war, is going to stand up for the Lord's people. In Daniel 2, Daniel 12. Daniel 12, it says in verse 1, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the sons of thy people," which the Lord's people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And why would he have to stand up for us? Because they're going to pretty much try to exterminate us. Such as, it says, "And there shall be a time of trouble," which is called Jacob's trouble. "And at that time thy people, the Israelites, shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book." All right? So the chariots are the vehicles of the angels, which Yahushai, the true Messiah, all right, leads them on his own chariot. In Matthew 24, verse 28, 29, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven." So after they make the MOTB mandatory for buying and selling, which they're in the process of doing, nuclear missiles are going to rain upon America like stars falling from heaven. "And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven." See, but they're already shaken. That's what this whole committee, all right, is about UFOs being identified more and more, and they have to be taken as a real threat. It says, "And they shall see," it says, "and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven." The clouds of heaven are the so-called UFOs, "with power and great glory." All right? It says, "And he shall send," Yahushua is actually speaking, he's prophesying of his own return. "And he shall send his angels with a," and that's a cut to Sakari, which they had that so-called deacon say that Yahushua couldn't prophesy and, show a vision which he's in. When right here he's prophesying of himself coming back. "And he shall send his angels." Who is he? Yahushua. Why is it in red writing? Because it's Yahushua speaking. "He shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, one end of heaven to the other." All right? And then it says in 2 Ezra 13, all right, that he's waxing strong, which I just saw a NASA video before they cut the live feed, and they had chariots, with sizes that are of known, all right, but the Lord gave us this definition of his chariot, all right? In 2 Ezra 13, it says, 2 Ezra 13, it says in verse 3, and I beheld, and lo, that man, Yahushai, waxed strong with thousands of heaven, which those are the so-called chariots, the so-called UFOs, which are the vehicle of the angels, which, to know what an angel looks like, all right, they're so-called black men. It says, and when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him, because they're going to be terrified when they do see him because of the power and the glory which he comes with, because that's his glory, right? He's the King of Kings. You don't think he's going to have enormous glory? The power of Yahweh, you know? Whew, it's going to make the earth shake. It says, let me see here. It says in verse 6, but I beheld, and lo, he had, let's go ahead and jump up one verse, verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men, which are the armies of this world, out of number, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea, out of the heavens, on the so-called UFOs. But I beheld, and lo, he, and didn't Reagan say that? There was a so-called alien invasion. They would come together, all right? They would unite in a one world order. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. So he's going to be riding this so-called UFO that's the size of a great mountain. I'm telling you, they had that NASA live feed. Before they cut it, there was the chariot was the size of possibly a city, maybe a state, who knows? But they caught it from one of their satellites in space, and it was just flying by, and this thing, you know, who knows how big it could have been bigger than the Earth, you know? It says, because really these are spirit, and they have the ability to manipulate their size. All right? But it says in verse 8, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. See? It says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire and the flaming breath, which a good example of this fire coming out of this chariot is Independence Day. It says, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight the armies of the world, starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white men, the red devil the Bible speaks of, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So if the prophet was afraid, Ezra, when he seen this, and he's on the right